Hi guys, these are the notes for the absolute monarchs, which we have already introduced in class. So absolutism or absolute monarchs refer to a time when in many countries across Europe we have somebody ruling the country who is in absolute control of everything. So the characteristics of these monarchs, if you stop for 1 second, pause the video, think of what the word monarch means. You should have said king or queen. So the characteristics of the absolute monarchs are on there, right there on the screen. The first thing is they tried to centralize power or have everything based around one place. So for example, in England, everything is going to be centralized around the city of London, which is their capital and the home of the Queen, so that she can keep an eye on everyone. In France, it will be centralized around the home of the French king, so that he can keep an eye on everyone in France. And no one will have an opportunity to do anything to challenge his power or her power in England. Second thing is the term on the screen, divine right. You can write down the definition there. Basically, it means the monarch is a representative of God, and so if you question the monarch, you are also questioning God. God has picked them to be the king or queen. So how do we end up with absolute monarchs? Well, basically, Europe is falling apart. The old systems are falling. People are taking over new kingdoms which have different religious groups, ethnic groups, language groups, and they're all attempting to unify their people. So, for example, Queen Elizabeth in England wants Welsh people who speak Welsh, and eventually the Irish people who speak Irish and are Catholic, all to think of themselves as being the same. So she's trying to have the same rules for everyone. All the rules are coming out of one place so that everyone will think of themselves as being English. So let's take a look at who these monarchs were. The first one is Philip of Spain. He is a devout Catholic. That means he sees himself as the defender of Catholicism. He replaces Henry VIII as that person. He is a member of the Habsburg family, which we have talked about, which had a member of their family in most of the royal families in Europe. His two major events are the Inquisition, which we have talked about in class. That was part of the Catholic Reformation, where they're trying to undo all the damage that happens leading up to the Reformation. So all the things people were complaining about during the Reformation, they're going to try and fix. It leads to torture, which we've looked at in class already. Second thing is the Spanish Armada, which we'll take a look at here. So Philip has created a amazing military. He's determined to punish the Protestant countries and bring them back to Catholicism by conquering them. So he attempts to do this by creating what we call the Spanish Armada. You can see a painting of it right here. Up to this time, greatest navy ever built. That is an actual painting of somebody who sees the Armada going by. As you can see, giant ships as far as you can see in every direction. They are going to try and take over England, which is the primary, most powerful Protestant country. As you can see, they leave here. They're going to try to attack, but they run into some trouble. Most of the trouble is going to be from weather. And then they're going to try and go around the north coast of Scotland here. For those of you who don't know, the weather up here is very cold and the seas are rough, but their goal is to reach Ireland, where they have a lot of Catholic people. They think that they will be able to get support and aid and be able to rest there. So they come around the northern part of Scotland. They get to the northern coast of Ireland, where the seas are amazingly rough. Even today we have modern ships with modern technology who get in wrecks because the waves are so huge and the ocean is so cold. If somebody falls overboard, they die quickly. So they're going to lose more ships just coming on the way to Ireland here. A lot of the ships are going to get washed up on shore, and in many cases, when they get near the coast or on the coast, the Irish actually capture them. So we've got a group of pirates, primarily a lady named Grace O'Malley, who some of them are going to capture these ships and take the money, take the soldiers, take the ship. If they get soldiers, they can sell them to the English for money. The ship is worth money, and there are things on the ship worth money. And so that happens. There's also a lot of them that land on the ground and are captured by the English or turned over to the English. And so they end up not getting a lot of support in Ireland that they're hoping for, and the fleet sort of falls apart, and the English end up victorious. So when this happens, the Spanish fall from being the most powerful and richest country in the world, and they will never return to be one of the top most powerful countries in the world again. The English replace them as the top country. So the main effects. Philip was so determined to be victorious that he spends all of their money on the wars. They don't have any more money. Plus, if you remember from last time, when the explorers go to America, they bring back boatloads of silver and gold, which causes inflation, which ruins the economy in Spain, and it is going to result in the Habsburgs, Philip II's family, becoming unpopular and losing power. Next monarch is Elizabeth. She's from England. Take a minute to write this stuff down. We spent a day and a half talking about Elizabeth in class, so just write this stuff down for now. Next monarch is Louis the 14th from France. So let's look and see where France is on this map. So if we look at our map, we have France, home of Louis the 14th, Spain, home of Philip II, and England, the home of Elizabeth. They're all right together here. His famous saying, "L'État c'est moi," that I am the state, or the state is me. His big thing was he wanted everyone to revolve around him. He's called the Sun King. And he's most famous for building this Palace of Versailles, which we are about to take a look at. So, Louis builds the Palace of Versailles. It is about as far out of Paris as we are out of Washington, D.C. And it's amazing. All these things you see lining this are mostly apartments. So, Louis's goal was to get all the nobility from France to come stay here in Versailles so that he could keep an eye on them. And it's all over the top. He's got these gigantic gardens with these fountains. Remember, this is built in the 1700s. This absolutely enormous palace. And the whole point was to try and impress everyone. In a moment you'll see, this is the way you approach the palace. So you start way down here, you walk up this whole entrance, you pass all these magnificent gardens and fountains, and then you get to the actual house. The inside of the house is equally amazing. See if we can get to the inside of the house here. So that's what it looks like walking up to the palace. And you get to the palace, and this is the inside. When he built this was the finest building in the world. It's full of artwork. It's decorated with gold plating. You can see this would have taken forever and been incredibly expensive. So he invites the nobles to come live in this mansion that you are looking at, filled with the most expensive things, marble from around the world, artists that are the best at their craft. And the idea is, if he is giving them this wonderful place to stay, it's better than where most of them have available. It gets them out of the capital city and living on his estate, so he can keep an eye on them. They can't have any plan to kick him out of power or cause him trouble, because he's always able to keep an eye on them. They're in his house. This is his actual house where he lived. So he has a couple apartments he uses, and he gives his nobility their own apartments inside this palace. It's a pretty nice house. I think we could all probably live there and be happy with what we have been given. So that was the way Louis tried to centralize power, was by using that Palace of Versailles and bringing everyone to him. The next absolute monarch is Frederick, and we will actually pick up with him in the next video segment.